Go ahead, Aaron.
A call to order the February 5th Transportation Committee meeting. All members are present. I would like to say, I'd like to give a thank you to Councilman Bill Dawson for naming me chairman again, and I welcome Vice Chairman Todd Lambert.
Thank you.
Like to say anything?
I appreciate that, and we working hand in hand with Aaron throughout this coming year. We got a lot of big projects going, and looking forward to see them complete. Some of them complete anyway. No, we won't get them all done, but we're going to try to move forward.
We're going to move on to number 2, the invocation and the pledge. Ask Mr. Dawson to lead us in the invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for all the blessings you bestowed upon us, your continued graces, for your watching over us and keeping us. We pray that during this flu season, oh God, that you protect people in this area, watch over our families. And we especially pray for the family of Aaron Sanchez, one of our own in the DPW area, who recently passed away with even complications associated with the flu and pneumonia. So we ask that you give grace unto his family, minister to all of those, oh God, that surrounded him, and we ask that you also minister to our family at DPW. We ask for your wisdom in tonight's meeting, and we thank you for all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If anybody in the public would like to comment, please fill out a card, bring it up. We'll be happy to give you your 3 minutes of time. Committee chairman's report. I usually don't say much, but it's a brand new year, and I'm going to put some undue or maybe due pressure on myself and talk about, just very briefly, a couple things I'd like to see this committee and myself get going for the upcoming year, for 2018. Number one, I'd like to have Move Ascension continue to push this forward. It's a great project that we've got going. It's groundbreaking in Ascension Parish, and it's got to keep moving forward through this year with the momentum it's already gotten through 2017. Number 2 is a preventative maintenance program, crack sealing and chip sealing. This is something that I envision that we can really touch a lot of areas on roads that aren't quite terrible yet, but we're going to add 5 to 10 years of life to these roads at a reduced cost. Yeah, the cost of overlaying can be very high. This is a lower alternative to get more life out of roads. I think it's very important. Number 3, I'd like to look into a striping program, a safety program. We've got a lot of roads that if you drive them at night, it's dangerous. And we don't have the funds right now to go out and fix every single road, but we can find some federal funds, we hope, and spend our own funds to do some striping projects on roads that we're not going to be able to go out and fix, but if we put those stripes, we can save a life or two, hopefully, or at least prevent a terrible accident. Traffic impact study, we're going to be moving on that tonight. I'd like to see that get done, hopefully by April or May, complete that. And we've got a lot going on with Move Ascension, as I said before. We don't have the money to do every single road in this parish. We've got a ton of roads that need to be fixed, widened, add turn lanes, striped, fix the potholes. We've got a lot that has to be done. We need to start thinking long-term and how we're going to fund this and where this funding is going to come from the long term. It's not a pleasant conversation to have, but it's something that as adults we got to take the bull by the horns and look into where we're going to do, find the funding for this, because we've got a lot of projects. Hopefully the federal government is going to come through with an infrastructure bill, and if we can get some things engineered, ready to go, have those matching dollars for it, we can get a lot more done in this parish, but it's not going to get done unless we buckle down and find some solutions. That's it. Let's move on to number 5, acceptance of the December 11, 2017 minutes.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Clord, a second by Councilman Lambert. Any questions? None. No opposition. So moved. Moving on to number 6, roads to be considered for acceptance.
Yes, before y'all get in tonight to accept some roads, 2 of them are subdivision roads. Silver Oaks PUD. We have Sterling Oaks Drive. You want to do them one at a time, like normal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's 13.37 feet.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Councilman Cavallotti.
I saw on your notes on the data report, Ricky, that you said a few surface cracks are in that, and they need to be sealed, as well as cracks in the curb, and they have to be cut and redone.
Right.
I don't have a problem with approving this, but let's make it contingent on those being taken care of and a final inspection by your department.
There was a letter sent to the contractor, the developer, and telling him it had to be done. So, I mean, you can put a contingency.
Yes.
It's held up until we get that done.
I'd like to add that contingency in the motion to approve.
Okay. And we have, I guess you'd say an amended motion by Councilman Cavallotti, a second by Councilman Lambert. Any opposition? None, so moved on Sterling Oaks Drive.
Legacy Oaks, second filing. You have Legacy Lakes Drive, 2,635 feet, and it has the same thing that Mr. John brought up on the other one. It has surface
Make that
cracks and
motion pending.
few areas need to be
Repairs.
addressed.
Okay, Councilman Lambert has made the motion contingent upon the repairs being fixed.
Carries.
And Terry, Councilwoman Cazzo made the second. Any opposition? None, so moved.
Now, the third road on here is, it's a private road. It was built as a private road, but they came to the parish, asked us to take it into the system. When it came to the parish, we went out, we looked for the normal things we look for on roads, make sure it had the right width. It was built to standards. There was cores that were taken on the road. We have the testing lab results. Pretty much everything that was done that needed to be done. If we accept it, this is something, I don't know if you accept it here, you might bring it to the full council, but it'll go through y'all starting tonight. It'd be a first step in the procedure. But this road here, they meet all our criteria. So we're asking that y'all look at it and to accept it into the parish maintenance system. That if you do accept it in the parish maintenance system, we will force them to put a 2-year bond on this road. It's a concrete road. It's DC 40. It's next to Tractor Supply on the west bank. I think they want us to take it in because they got some more development coming in. That's going to be some business-oriented development. So we looked at it and it meets our standards.
Question.
Councilman Lambert.
Rick, is this something that we're just starting, or is it,
It's been done in the past, Todd. I
okay?
mean, we don't get a lot of requests that roads are built private come into the system. But I mean, it has happened in the past and the council has accepted them, you know? But this one here, we did look at it.
It's been a while since we took in
Yeah,
one
it's
like
been,
this, so-
it's been a while, but it does happen from time to time.
Okay.
Councilman Clark.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, and you kind of explained where it's at. How old is this road? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, about 2-year-old.
Okay, so it's a fairly new
Yeah.
road. Okay. And,
He said maybe a little less.
Yeah, and back to Todd's question, I know I've been serving for 10 years, and so this might be one of the first ones in 10 years that we've taken in. I've had about 3 attempts in District 6 for roads to come in, and apparently there was no way in heck possible for us to try to take a road in.
What happens?
One of them was River Highlands, which was a concrete road that at the time, needed some repairs, and we couldn't come to any kind of agreements with anybody. I had a couple more that they weren't up to spec. They weren't asphalt roads.
That's been the biggest problem in the past. A lot of them, the ones that want to come in, they don't meet the requirements today. They're either the right-of-way is not, or the right-of-way that they bring to us don't meet our requirements. And a lot of times the road's so deplorable, it's just not right unless they fix it, then we can bring it in. But it don't happen. This doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while we have taken some in the past.
Because I have a request that probably within the last month, I have a constituent family that's bringing, probably going to see Jerome and them about a road coming in or DPW. And I told them that based on what I've been working with, that road does not meet the standards, but I wish them all luck to go forward and get it considered.
That's the process. I mean, most of the time we get a request from a council member, and then we go do our leg work to make sure it meets it. If it does, then we could bring it up to y'all for y'all to make the decision.
And,
This
I mean-
this could spiral.
yeah.
This is
that-
a, you know,
Well, I'm all for spiraling, because I need some help on my side, too, okay? But anyway, thank you, because it's fairly new road and apparently in good shape. It was built good.
yes.
Councilman Cagalati. Oh, Councilwoman Cazzo.
That's all right, order doesn't matter. I just wanted to clarify that you said pretty much, and then you said it meets the standards. So does it meet the
No,
standards?
it meets the standards. In other words, we got testing results. We made them quarter road, the width's there, the right-of-way is there. So it meets our standards.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll make that motion with the, do I have to add the bond, or you
Two-year
already
bond.
have that on?
It's a note on the bottom. I would go ahead and add it. They're gonna have
I
to
would
place a
like-
two-year
I'd like to
bond.
clarify that we, take this road, make a motion to take this road in, with the, clarification that, they have a 2-year bond on the road.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Clark, a second by Councilman Cagalati. Any discussion? None. Any objection? None. So we will move to accept the road with a 24-month bond.
Just, can I have one quick note?
Yes.
While we're on roads, one of my normal things is, this is another mile of road we got out of these 3 roads, okay?
Yes,
That we gotta take care of
That's
for
right.
eternity.
this one will be in 2 years. The other ones, the bonds run out next month.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, at some point, I'd like the chair to, maybe next meeting or whatever, that we address the money that we have in the road program and the road fee.
You talking about
Get an accounting of the
yearly
traffic impact.
funding? or-
Traffic impact fee, yes.
Okay. That might could be addressed. Well,
Yeah.
it's not on the agenda.
It's
Okay.
not on the agenda, but it doesn't need to be tonight.
All right.
I'd just like to see where we stand on it.
Okay. If you would send me an email on that, because I will forget.
Okay.
Moving on to number 7, Department Report, Mike Enlow.
Good evening. We're gonna have an update from HNTB, but before that, I'd like Tacey Rabelais, our transportation engineer, to go over the report that has the road maintenance projects schedule. So I'll turn it over to Tacey.
Good evening. The 2017 road maintenance program, it's Coastal Bridges contract. They were just issued their second task the week of January 24th. It's in the amount of $668,762.50. And there's a list of roads that they're going to be doing work on. The first, the first 5 we're actually going to be rebuilding, reconstructing the road. Waterford Lane, there's some curb repair that has to be done that we'll be doing in this package. And then the last 4, or I'm sorry, 5, we'll be doing, no, I'm sorry, 4. Those will be doing just restriping, like Aaron had mentioned. We have a lot of roads that need to be restriped, so we're going to add those 4 in this task. And then there's just some parking lot repair work that we need to do on Bourgeois. The 2018 road maintenance programs, R.J. Daigle's contract. They were issued their first task last week. It's in the amount of $937,089.89, and the 3 roads that are listed, it's going to cost cost the parish that much money to redo those 3. We have a list of roads that we're hoping to be able to do on the second task after they finish these first 3, but we're in the process of prioritizing those roads. And then just the bottom, the DOTD projects that we still have in design. I just got the revised final plans from GSA for LA 22. And those went to DOTD today, so I'm hoping to have something back in a month or 2. And then I-10, the ribbon cutting was held, I think, the last week of January, so they just started that project. And behind this, there's an attachment that shows the latest updates I have from DOTD on all their projects in construction. If you want to look through those and have any questions, I'll answer them as best as I can.
Councilwoman Cazzo.
Tacey, where are we going to find the Ridge Road reconstruction on this?
It's listed on RJ Daigle's first task. If you look under the 2018 road
Okay.
maintenance program,
I'm-
it's
I'm-
number 3.
Okay, thank you so much. Got it.
Yeah.
I hadn't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Happy to see that. And what's the estimated time to get started on that?
They're actually, they're in the process of getting their DOTI calls in. We are actually meeting on Ridge Road tomorrow with, a company that has 2 high-pressure gas mains going beneath Ridge. So we need to, address how we're gonna repair the road over the gas lines. So we're gonna go meet with him tomorrow to see where they are exactly and how deep they are and see what we can do right there. But as soon as they get all their utilities cleared, they'll start. So I'd imagine within the next week or 2.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Mr. Dawson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick to kind of springboard off of something that you said about chip sealing and how we need to do to move forward with improving some of the situation on the road. We just recently had a meeting with our MPO. And with our MPO, they actually did a sweep of all our roads to determine status and degradation of the roads. They've also provided a graph for us to show that what would happen if we went with chip sealing and how it would extend the life of the road and what we didn't. President Matassa is moving to a process to make sure that we take advantage of that through the MPO. But I also want to say that there are a lot of things that are currently being done with Alan Burrow and that group that's doing a lot of work on some of those overlays of roads. So they've identified the road that need to be chip sealed, the one that needs to be a thin lift, and those kind of things. And so we're taking that information and he's planning it into his schedule now. But what the goal is to kind of monetize the actual value of what we get if we use chip seal instead of letting the road degrade to a point that you have to do a major maintenance effort on it and bring that back to this committee. So I'll be working with Mr. Enlow, Mr. Daniel, and Tacey, of course, to get that back with the MPO.
I think a good example of that is the 2018 road maintenance program. We've got 3 roads at about $313,000 apiece. And those roads are in poor condition. Had we chip sealed them years ago, it cost tremendously less, and we're in a much better situation. We're not paying to fix that much on those roads. So I'm glad we're looking into that. Anybody else? Councilwoman Cazzo.
Yeah, I have another comment to make since we're now discussing crack sealing. I think we're going to have a public awareness program around the crack sealing. My subdivision was done unbeknownst to me. I drove out of my driveway one morning and there's all these squiggly lines all over the road. And in fact, it was distressing to some of the members of my community. It lit up on Facebook almost immediately. What has happened to our roads? Why did they do this? Why did they devalue our property? And by making our roads so ugly, I had to start, an education process with members of the community about what it was, why it was done, what the advantages were of it, and how long it would be. I mean, I had one woman in the community who suggested that the parish better hurry up, get back over there, and dig up all our roads and replace them all, because she couldn't stand to look at that. So, and look, it is annoying. It's not as pretty as your road was before that crack sealing is done. So we need to educate in each community before we do that and make sure people understand why.
I can explain a little bit why, in case y'all do get the questions. It is ugly. Nobody denies that. But what it does is it keeps the water from going into the road base. And it's much better than looking at a huge pothole in your road. So that's what essentially it's preventing. So,
absolutely. And that is exactly what I was, informed enough to be able to explain.
Yes, ma'am.
But had I not caught it, I mean, there was literally a petition about to go around the neighborhood to petition the parish to come undo it. Yeah. So, I mean, we don't need to let that kind of thing get rolling and people be distressed by that. They need to understand before it happens. So if you're going to crack seal a subdivision A, there needs to be some public notice given so that those folks know. Because it is startling when you drive in and it's just been done.
Yes,
You
ma'am. I'll
get used to it after a while.
I'll pass that on to our pavement management group, and we'll try to work something out to see the best way to inform people before it happens.
And even if it's just a matter of letting the council person know, I mean, I lived in the neighborhood and I didn't know. If I hadn't known what crack sealing was, I wouldn't have been able to explain it. So I would really appreciate it, and I think other councilmen will appreciate it down the road. If, when it's going to be done, they are at least notified, and if possible, some other form of notification is given.
Well,
Thank
we'll
you.
just tell them that roads are just like me. As you get a little older, you start to get wrinkles. They start to show over time, and it's just going to happen.
Well, there is,
Councilman Clark.
Yeah, real quick, Tacey, on the state projects, Gold Place Road. Real quick, on the state projects, Gold Place Road,
Oh, well, please. Yes, sir. I'll have to.
431 and 420, 934.
That
Turn lane, yeah.
DOTD had final plans a while back. It should be. I believe it was out to bid. I'll have. Is it on
I'm
their
just looking
project?
at the printed, I'd got a package from the secretary, and I'm looking at the printed thing, and first of all, it says St. James Parish, so I think they got a mistake there, but
Oh, I'll have.
I'm good if they're paying for it. But,
No, I agree.
So it's got project start date to be announced, anticipated completion to be announced. I know they did a lot, and what a lot of people don't understand, that there's a lot of time consumed in utilities relocation.
Yes, sir. And I know
And
there
that was a lot of old facilities around there, and so usually with that, there's a lot of utilities relocation, that wasn't, old stuff wasn't planned, but,
Yes.
so.
Yes, sir, and I know that was an issue right at the end. They were having problems getting their utility certifications from all the companies. It might have been Atmos that was one of the last ones to turn theirs in, so that's probably what's going on. When I speak to the DOTD office next, I'll inquire about it, but I'll definitely point out that it has the wrong parish on there.
So, I mean, other than this, there's no necessarily update on it.
No, sir. No, I haven't been made aware of anything that's any kind of conflict. I just knew that it had been bid out, and I would imagine construction will be starting soon. I'm sure they're in the process of relocating utilities right now, but I'll check and I'll have an update for you next meeting if that's okay, or I can email you.
And just real quick, while we're on roads as a whole, as we bid out, we put out for public bid, and the qualified road construction companies, is there any way that we grade their work, their past experience, their ability, their staffing, their ability to actually execute the work in a timely manner?
We don't have an official grading system in place. We do keep track of all correspondence, any kind of conflicts and issues that we have. We have our inspection logs here lately have been really good, real detailed about certain issues that we are having with certain contractors anytime that they don't follow direction, or we have to be confrontational with them. Usually it's when we note something. So if we have a consistent problem with.
Yeah,
with
I thought the state had like a normal grade scorecard post job.
For pre-construction services, there
No,
is, but for bidding,
For construction, yeah,
it's low-
something that's some kind of history that we look at.
it's,
Naturally goes to the lowest bidder,
you have to,
okay?
correct.
So that's somewhat law, but I mean, I'm just wondering, do we actually look at our experience and the quality of work we got and what we got, and do we grade? We've talked about this for years, and I'm not holding anybody to it. It's just is there some?
From my experience, it's pretty, it's more of maybe legal definition that I probably can't describe to you, but there's quite a bit of stuff you have to do and track to keep that company that has a low bid from getting the work. Maybe we can get a legal opinion on that and the steps we could take, but to my knowledge, we've never really looked that far into it.
We've had discussions with purchasing and legal as well. I think there is a way to throw out the lowest bidder if you've had problems, but it has to be very well documented so that, you know, if they take you to court, you have to be able to explain exactly what happened and why we threw them out. I think, like Mike said, from what I understand, it's very, very difficult, and I'm sure Aaron probably could answer better as far as the legal end of it.
I think our best defense is, because I don't depend on lawyers, is best defense is, I'm saying you'd best not get into that position.
That's
but our
right.
best defense is the RFQ, or
Right.
when
No, I
we go
agree.
out for bid, that we have everything named. In the past, we've had trouble with shoulders on roads, quality of roads, things like that. Ricky's lived through almost all of those, being in the position he's in. So I just wonder, do we score a card? And even if they are a low bidder, then you bring them in and say, okay, you're the low bidder, but you know, we had this issue last time, and we want to clarify what you're doing here, you know, and what our expectations are,
Right.
not just the specs.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilman Cagliati.
I think Ken had something to talk on this subject. I want something different.
Yeah, just real fast. We will look into it. I know there's been discussions about that, as Councilman Cluett, I said before, and we did have some legal discussion, just speaking with Mr. Daniel here. And bottom line is that if you go through a process, they have to always be on this list that says that there were some issues, and you couldn't allow them to bid if they were a low bidder and not allow them to move forward. So I'm just saying this. Point well taken. We've had some discussions about this before. We'll get back with our legal department and see what we need to do to establish a very strong procedure and what's necessary to keep us, you know, out of any possible litigation if there's a problem. But point well taken. We've discussed that among ourselves about the same situation, so we'll just move it forward, okay?
Thank you.
Randy, one more thing. We do have pre-construction meetings, and we tend to work through the problems, but we're not afraid to let it be known what we are happy with and what we weren't happy with, maybe on a previous
I appreciate
contract. So
Thank you, guys,
Yes,
all the staff. Thank you all very much.
Councilman Lambert.
Just one thing, I know we're a little different in the chemical industry as from public, you know, parish government, but we have outfits called IS that before a company can come through our gates, they have to score A, B, a high grade, or if they score F, they're not coming in, and they have to have a certain amount of insurances, and it's a third party that actually does that. Now, a lot of the chemical plants are going to that right now.
Yeah.
Where we have a bunch of guys that's been coming in our plant, and they might have maybe a fatality in another state, and their safety record's not there. Well, they scored a F, they're not coming in, you know. So they have outfits that you can get to do some scoring,
We
and
may have to speak to our state delegation.
whether or not that can happen in parish government.
right,
You know, this is a private industry, you know, industries.
We have discussed that with Move Ascension, with the engineering firms, grading them. That's another topic, maybe put that back on, see where we stand with that, because time is another issue. A year to do engineering work isn't always acceptable. We want things to move a little quicker, but that's neither here nor there right now, because we're not on that, the engineering side of things. John Cagliati, Councilman Cagliati.
Thanks, Chairman. Just backtracking a little bit on the crack seal, and Stacy and Ricky, there's a process I read about. It's relatively new, been around for a few years. It's called road painting, and it's an asphalt fiber product that's literally rolled on, 1/8 of an inch thick, 1/4 of an inch thick, and it would hide those ugly cracks. And it says adds anywhere from 3 to 5 years to that road. You know, if it's damaged but not completely torn apart, that this seal will and it's the whole width of the road, not just a little crack going down the middle of the road. Are y'all familiar with that? It's called road painting, or?
Well, we're familiar with what they call a slurry seal, which is basically what you're saying. It covers the whole roadbed instead of just where the spider cracking appears.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's possible, but it's gonna be more costly. Right now, we just got a maintenance crew in about a year ago that goes in and actually does these spider cracks that y'all been seeing on this. It's just covering the crack only. We're not covering the whole road bed. So, I mean, you're gonna spend more money to do it the other way, but if that's something y'all wanna look into,
You know,
it'd be more.
from everything I gather, this is a whole lot cheaper than an overlay, 2-inch.
Well, yeah, but
whatever.
I'm not talking about an overlay now. I'm talking about the little squiggly lines Miss
Yeah.
Terry's talking about compared to covering the whole road bed. You know, and it's a slurry seal that you do to cover the whole road bed. It's possible to do that, but it's more costly to do that, you know? And right now, we're just trying to seal, we never had a maintenance program to seal these cracks. We finally got one here tonight. Public don't like the way it looks. I mean, we just have to decide, or y'all have to decide where you want to go with it, you know?
We're protecting them.
We'll look into it. I'll get with you and get that information. The whole purpose is just, if you keep the water out of the roads.
Yep.
and
And this does the
it
same
helps,
thing.
right? South Louisiana, it's tough to do that, but I'll get with you on that. Sounds
Sure.
interesting.
Councilwoman Kazza.
Yeah, and I certainly want to make sure you understand that I'm not criticizing the process. I think it needs to be done. It needs to be done as conservatively as possible, and it's not going to be attractive. So we just need to help people understand that. I think that it's just the shock of it that was caused a problem. So I don't want to throw that baby out with the bathwater. I think it's a very inefficient and cost effective way to make sure our roads last longer.
Miss Terry, we may be able to get our video department to go out with our crew that does that and take a video and put it on a public broadcast system that we have.
I think it'd be a great
You know,
idea.
That's something we can educate the public about what's going on in the subdivision.
Excellent idea. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, anything else from the department report? Mr. Antelope?
Jeff's going to come up and give an update on Move Ascension, if you guys want to hear about it.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members. Before you, I left a packet of information for each of you, and I'll go ahead and just briefly cover a few of the aspects of the Move Ascension program since we've met last. I know it's been a couple of months. First is the consultant design contracts. We have several underway, and you see the list of projects. We have the ones along the Roddy Corridor, Henry, the St. Landry Connector, the Parker Road Roundabout, Sebro, from 929 to, LA 73 to Bluff. That is currently underway. And we have the last three, Germany, Duplessis, and T, where Germany and Duplessis haven't started yet. They've executed task orders, but those are tied to the CRPC call for projects and the Department of Transportation. So we're coordinating efforts to get started with the department. As y'all are aware, we had several traffic analyses going, 3 for intersection improvements at turn lanes on Highway 73 at Oakland, Brown, and Henry. Those are complete. Those have been submitted to the department for review, as well as 3 roundabout analyses, 74 in Bluff, 73 in 427, and 929 in Bro. Those are all complete and have been submitted as well. As you recall, came back several months ago, and we initiated a task order for the airline highway throughout the entire Ascension Parish to look at the signal timing and the synchronization of all of the signalized intersections. And there's 19 from 427 through Highway 30. That analysis from our consultant is done. It's been submitted on, when was it submitted on? January 3rd to DOTD. Chris Ewing is the district traffic operations engineer. He's reviewing it. His staff is beginning the design implementation of what we provided, and I'm actually meeting with him next Monday to see the timing of the implementation on that. So we're moving pretty quickly on that. We also wanted to do the same thing on West Bank in Donaldsonville, and that came a little bit later, but that is underway, just to let you know. Additional task orders for some of the Phase Bs have yet to be negotiated and executed, but we're efforting that now with parish staff and the CDCs. And then an entire list is in your packet as Appendix A of all of the immediate actions, all of the Phase Bs, the ones that are underway, and the ones we're looking at possibly analyzing in the future as well. Item number 2 on the report is the CRPC's call for projects and the STP block grant greater than 200K federal dollars that we're trying to leverage our match with that. And I summarized this at the last time we met, but it'd been a while, so I kept it on here to recap. That we're working with CRPC. We previously had $9.3 million in dedicated federal funds for Central Parish, but they were tied to Henry and Roddy. Because we've moved those up into our immediate actions, they're allowing us to transfer some of that, not some of it, all of that 9.3 to some of the Phase Bs. Okay? That's money that's available now,
Right.
federal dollars. Okay? Now, in the call for projects this year, Ascension Parish, out of an allotment of $36 million, received 7.6 for a total of about 20% of their entire allotment for the call for projects. That's fiscal years 20 through 22. So if you add that up, we have about $17 million that we're able to leverage in federal dollars from CRPC. And when you combine that with the parish match, we're at about $22.5 million of federal and parish match that we're able to leverage for additional projects. So when you look at all of that, I mean, it's pretty good bang for your buck for the parish at about 25 cents on the dollar. Item number 3. It's a little bit different in this packet than you've seen previously, given a status of all of the individual projects. I have a separate handout for that in a tabulated form. At the last meeting at the end of 2017, Councilman Dawson and Councilman Kluat had asked for a little bit better percent upgrade on the schedule of completion based on the schedule versus actuals. And we can certainly walk through each of these, or I can leave it with you to digest and certainly be available for questions afterwards. But what I've labeled here for you is some of the major milestones. I didn't want to grab every task and subtask for you. It gets a little convoluted at times. I have the schedule completion date, schedule completion percentage, when they actually finished, their actual percentage, and then about how many days plus or minus on that schedule are they behind or ahead. Most of them are right on task, ahead of schedule, and there was a few that had lagged on some of the field work that were given executed contracts a little bit later than others. Some of it due to the recent, weather conditions, but those have wrapped up, and we have a recovery schedule to get them back on track.
I notice we've got quite a few ahead of schedule.
Yes, we do, and quite a few, a good bit ahead of schedule. Actually, if you look at your second to last page on that, that's the St. Landry connector. And if you'll notice on that, we're all at 100% complete for all the major tasks. For their 90% preliminary plans, about midway through, their schedule percentage, they should be about 47% complete. They're 80% complete. Not only that, they shouldn't even started final maps. We're 100% complete. And I want to touch on that for just a second, and because it's a little bit later in my report, but that's the one where we're cutting through the BASF property. Mm-hmm. And we have not only done the property surveys, we've completed all of the right-of-way maps. Thanks to President Matassa and Mr. Ken Dawson here. They've been very aggressive with negotiations, and so our right-of-way subconsultant is actively pursuing that sale, and we anticipate having that property and owning it here very soon, where I anticipate I've already developed clearing and grubbing plans, and we're going to let that next month, but I think the parish has decided, similar to Edenborn, they're going to do that in-house. So by next month, we're going to start clearing that property. We're going to own it and start clearing it. In addition to that, and again, it's in later than I'm jumping ahead in my report, but our environmental subconsultant, ELOS Environmental, has already completed a wetland delineation and all other required field assessments, and the application to the Corps to permit this job has already been submitted, and we anticipate a permit within 30 days. So as soon as we get that permit in hand, we will already have acquired the right-of-way. We have designed around the utility relocations. So we're going to start clearing next month, is my anticipation. Actually, we're pushing for that very strongly.
Councilman Clore.
I want to thank you very much because, once again, this is a very important road to us based on our traffic surveys and everything in the industry.
Yes, sir.
with Lamar Dixon, with everything in that area. One more path. And I hope, I see the actuals on right-of-way acquisition at 50%. We had a stumbling block with one family with the Edenborn connector. I would hope that we don't run into any troubles there.
No, sir. And luckily for this one, it's one track, one ownership, all BASF. Actually, in last month, the council passed an ordinance to allow the parish to buy the property for $1. So we're proceeding with that sale now. And again, it's Mr. Dawson and President Matassa and Mr. Daniel have been actively in those negotiations to put us in this position so early on. So it's just certainly a testament to them. Are there any other questions on I know it's very detailed and it's a tabulated form. If y'all would like to see it in a different format another time, that's fine. I'll leave with y'all to kind of digest, and I'm always, not wait till the next meeting, always available for questions or comments or to come meet with y'all personally, of course.
Do we have any questions? Nope.
I mean, if not, I'll just, continue with the report,
Press on.
which transitions us to the next page 2, right-of-way acquisition.
No,
We
just
are-
a comment.
Oh.
Jeff, I just
Councilwoman
want
Cazzo.
to, I just want to thank you. I mean, this is great work. We're seeing what we need to see. We appreciate it very much. And particularly the idea that we're going to get some of this stuff done. I mean, this is, when you start seeing these kind of being ahead of schedule, having made some progress, it's just very encouraging, and I appreciate it very much.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask one other question while I have an opportunity?
Absolutely.
Once the surveying is done, all those little flags in everybody's yard are a nuisance. So how long do all those little flags in everybody's yard stay there?
Till the lawnmower runs them over.
Well, that's what I was afraid of.
I tell you, Councilman Lambert, I know you're joking, but it's so funny, some of the crews out there, and those flags are to identify the underground utilities using the ground penetrating radar, where they have to pothole and actually touch the lines, and that's what all the little flags are. So while they're out there surveying, using the total GPS stations and whatnot, their SU sub, the subsurface utility engineering sub, has put those and identified exactly where those lines are, telephone, gas, absolutely everything that's underground, water, everything. Then the survey crews actually pick that up so that it's into their design at a different layer. So when they're designing, they can intelligently try to minimize conflicts, avoid if all possible, and or try to mitigate where is best possible. So yes, these are 100% complete, and I would want to verify everybody has it built into their system. I think we can probably go out with some kind of public awareness, public message that they can be removed, or we'll send crews out there to remove them. But it's funny you said that. We had crews putting their flags. They got a half mile down. They turned around, and homeowners were picking them up because they wanted to mow their lawn. So I had to send them back to stick the flags back in. But anyway, yes, once we have everything and they're picked up and it's built into the digital terrain model is what we call it, so they can design off of, yes, we can remove them.
Okay, so I think I heard you say that we need to have some kind of communication to the public when it's okay to pick them up.
Yes, or like I said, I'll send subs out there to go remove them from people's yards if they don't want to do it themselves.
No problem. I mean, I don't think anybody along Seabro Road minds picking up their own survey flags, but they don't want to do something if it's
Right.
if it's not the right time to do it.
I would caution against Seabro right now. That was one of the latter ones done, and I want to make sure that we have everything we need on Seabro. A lot of the ones on Roddy, a lot of the ones on Henry, probably could come up now. I would rather not double check, triple check that that's the case before we start ripping the flags up.
Sure.
But I can get back to you even this week whether that's
I'd
the case.
appreciate that. I've had several property owners ask me questions, and right now it's not an issue. We're not mowing our
Sure.
grass, but nor is anybody on that road. But I want to know before we get to the spring.
I'll get back to you this week on that.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good point, Councilwoman Casso. We're learning. This is the first major program the parish has undertaken, and we're learning quite a bit. And one of the things we're learning with the help of HNTB and their subconsultants is how to push the message out there and really, these are small, trivial items, but they matter to a lot of people, so.
Absolutely.
We're going to try to get some information to some of the folks out there and minimize the calls to you all
Yeah,
on
on
stuff like
behalf of
that.
my constituents and all of these guys' constituents, we appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
The public's awareness of what we're doing and how we're doing it is going to be critical to this
Right.
process.
Yeah, some people just say, oh, well, just, come big hanger on our door, let us know, or do this and that. And it's reasonable, but, it's 300 people along Roddy Road, so we have to figure out what's the best method to reach those people effectively on some of these projects, so.
That may be another one of those things for Channel 21.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman
you.
Clark.
Yeah, I just want a clarification while you're on there. Under the heading of the Roddy Road Church Point Roundabout and also under the Babin Road bridge replacement over by Narcisse. In the bullet point, right-of-way acquisition and utility relocations to be performed by the parish.
Yes, sir.
What is the definition of that? Maybe Mr. Enlow. So in other words, the parish is contracting that out or the parish is doing it?
It's the parish's responsibility based
That's all.
on,
That's what I
on
wanted
the
to know.
cooperative endeavor agreement with DOTD.
Yeah.
So what they've done is contracted through us, our subconsultant, to go acquire the right-of-way
Yeah.
and coordinate those utility relocations. Once that's done, then the DOTD will go ahead
That's
and
all.
let the
I'm
project.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just real quick on the flags that, kind of hang around in people's yards and all. In Santa Ma, we generally leave them, but if we disagree with them, we pick them up and move them. But we rarely pick them up.
That's how we roll.
That explains all the roads doing this. Councilman Cagliari.
Going back to the St. Landry Road, Ashland Road connector, I think Randy will agree, Todd will agree. The people in industry, which make up obviously our largest employers parish-wide, they're thrilled to death. Anything that can divert traffic off of Highway 30 is going to be welcomed with open arms and with a lot of happiness and gracious thanks and you know what.
Yes, sir.
Good job, keep it going. The sooner we get that done, the better off we'll be.
Yes, sir, we will. And we actually had a meeting on site with the folks from BASF, and they brought an entire army of folks to talk with us about it, and we're extremely excited about the project. So, yes, we will absolutely keep pursuing this very diligently.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Going back just to the right-of-way acquisition, again, on the Church Point Roundabout, DOT is going to commit $1 million. As we just discussed, based on the CEA, the parish is responsible for both the right-of-way acquisition and relocating the utilities, and then DOT will let that to construction. Our right-of-way subconsultant has already begun and almost complete right now with all of the full title research reports, but I've put them on hold right now because the department is requiring us to revise the design and bring it up to current specs because it's been sitting for a while. And I don't want them going out there and doing too much in case it's going to affect the maps. The next project, however, we were actively already in appraisal phase and negotiations. We've contacted all the owners. They're very amicable to the sale. And so we're pursuing that right now for the Babin Road Bridge project. And the department will pay for the construction and CE&I a little over about $500,000 worth of funding there. We just discussed everything about the St. Landry connector. The next item, item 5 on there, is just a recap of what the department did last year here in Ascension. They let just over $121 million in construction projects in 2017. There was one project let in January that was in Ascension, and that's to do some improvements with turn lanes at Airline and 621. That was in and around $600,000 there. Earlier, we talked about a preventive maintenance program. The chairman brought up his desire to see something, and Mr. Dawson expounded on that a good bit. But we've been working with CRPC. As Mr. Dawson said, they did the analysis, and they've broken down a 3-year program, 18, 19, and 20, for crack. What roads are qualified now for crack sealing, chip seal, thin overlays, things like that, to put together an entire comprehensive preventive maintenance program. Talking with the parish, we kind of wanted to start looking at and developing a program right now that we can jump out the gate with chip seals. I mean, this is something that can be done, very quickly, to where we're having groundbreakings in the second quarter of this year. And I mean on a dozen roads. So it provides a lot for very little investment. The CRPC puts a value on chip seals as it costing about $17,000 a mile, which is extremely inexpensive. Based on my experience at the department and everything, I kind of disagree a little bit. I think it's a little low, more like $20,000 to $25,000 per mile. Still highly inexpensive when you look at cost per mile compared to a full reconstruction, full overlay, things like that. We talked about possibly through Move Ascension getting enough ready to kind of just have one or two lettings and jumpstart a chip seal program. I know the parish is interested in buying some equipment, the spreaders, the trucks, the emulsified asphalt spreaders, training their personnel so that they can absorb that in-house. We may do it all in-house and just kind of wait until that happens. It's really, we're going to discuss that with the administration and the steering committee, but just wanted to kind of let y'all know. One of the handouts here is the 3 years of chip seal program, maps of each one that the CRPC gave us a list, and I'll plot them out on a map for y'all to see that it's parish-wide, and they're divided by year based on current conditions. And then I just have a couple of snapshots in your packets here of an example of a road that would qualify. You see it's not barely cracked, a pothole, but a lot of oxidation has occurred to the asphalt, and it's getting to where it's good enough that this would apply. And then the second is just one of the chip spreaders and the emulsified asphalt covering of what a finished product would look like of a typical chip seal. Just for y'all's awareness on that. And I know we've talked about that a lot this evening. So the next item.
Jeff,
yes, sir.
I just want to say something on that because I've got heard a lot of talk about it, even got a couple of phone calls on it. Chip sealing is not going to do potholes and large. Can we kind of explain that? We're not looking for the worst roads in the parish right now to fix. Can you explain that a little bit?
Roads with a lot of cracking, a lot of potholes, a lot of raveling, rutting, alligator cracks, things like that would never qualify for a chip seal program. A road for a program like this would have to be in good or higher condition. It's just, I guess, somewhat on the cusp of getting into a fair condition where you go and chip seal and you extend the life for another decade or so without having to go in there and do expensive overlays, base reconstruction, and things like that. There's another layer that is for roads just slightly less than that, but not bad enough to fully overlay, reconstruct the base and everything, and that's the thin overlay characteristic that they talk about here. And basically all that is on the crown of the roadway is milling two off and putting two back. Where you would patch potholes, but we're talking like two square down, fill that back, and then mill two, put two back.
I've got plenty of roads that qualify in that direction. That's a good program.
And what I'm expecting, I'm sure all of us will get phone calls saying, hey, you're doing this road, but this one's worse. We understand that, and
Right.
that's just part of the system. This is for the future. It's not for right now.
And that's why, we're doing these big projects from Move Ascension, the immediate actions, these roundabouts, turn lanes, widenings, okay? And that's why a transportation program itself, as holistically, also has to have an overlay program, preventive maintenance. And in preventive maintenance, you have the many tiers, from just crack sealing to chip sealing to thin overlays before you get to your main overlay program. And so it's to have an entire all-encompassing transportation program, you need all of these types of elements and different tiers to it. And so, we're not looking to just come with just the big projects. We want to help set up and work with the parish to develop all of these other programs so that, Ascension has what it needs so that while you're doing and spending lots of money on a roundabout and it takes a year, you have this program that's going on yearly where you're doing some thin overlays, some chip seals, some crack sealing, and different things, and it's a continual cyclical process.
Thank you.
It's truly preventative maintenance. It's not exciting. You're not going to see the benefit of it, but you'll know, the public's going to know that road's going to last another 5 to 10 years before we have to do any real maintenance on it. So that's basically what it's about. So,
Thank you.
Item 7, Tacey and Mike already covered that. That's their normal overlay program. I'll skip that. Ongoing activities, obviously, we're continuing to coordinate with every stakeholder that there is here in the parish that has any stake in this road transfer program. We're developing some analyses of the entire list that DOTD has provided. I've actually, on one particular road, 930, developed a proposal that I think we're going to present to the administration and steering committee here soon, that hopefully we can maybe move forward with. And we'll get some good benefits to the parish on that. Obviously, we've developed a program schedule and budget. We're continuing to update those as task orders continue to get executed, and we have other expenditures. And we've even projected out a program budget out to 2021. That's something else we can, present to this committee and/or steering committee whenever we meet. We're finalizing the program manuals that we told you we would develop, not just for this program, but to leave with you after this program's over, to continue a methodology of running an overall transportation division. As I mentioned earlier, we've engaged our subconsultant, ELOS. They have done all the wetland delineations. They've already been submitted to the Corps, and the full application for St. Landry has also been submitted. We're hoping to receive that permit sometime early part of next month if the Corps takes their full allotment of time. Something that we've already done that was a huge milestone for us was at the very end of last year. We held a utility summit, brought in all the utilities, told them about the program, the roads we're doing. We talked about schedule, timelines, getting them engaged early and often. Because not only is the right-of-way acquisition the absolute critical path, but 1B is utility relocations. So we're engaging them early, we're engaging them often. And of course, we're preparing a template construction proposal for all the construction jobs. We're going to try to let clearing and grubbing jobs so we can get the roads cleared so we can move the utilities in advance of the road construction coming. So we're developing template construction proposals that we're going to present to the parish staff for their review and comment for use in this program. And then the last item is just a couple of action items that I think the first one is a task order for some public outreach. And I believe that's going to be before you here, coming up next on the agenda. At your discretion, at the administration's discretion, the master plan, we're currently on pause. At your direction, we'll remain there and or go off pause. And of course, I'm looking to schedule the next steering committee meeting very soon. We have a pretty good list of things that I think we need to make you aware of, good timely decisions and good feedback before we move forward. And with that, that's the end of my presentation and briefing, but I stand ready to answer any questions y'all may have.
Any questions? Nope. Very good. Thank you for the presentation, Jeff.
Thank y'all for your time.
Okay, moving on. Mike, anything else? I'm sorry.
No, not at this time.
Okay, moving on. Recommendation to council to allocate $25,000 to update the current traffic impact analysis policy to Urban Systems Incorporated. Jerome Fournier.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm here before you tonight to would like to introduce Christine Dara from USI, Urban Systems Incorporated, a consulting firm out of New Orleans. They have offices in Baton Rouge, and they prepared for the parish back in 2015, 2016, an analysis of the traffic impact fee policy that we use to prepare traffic studies for developments that are coming into the parish, right? During that analysis, they compared our parish with other neighboring parishes, looked at some other things that are being done around the state in comparison with DOTD as an example. And part of this contract, what's before you tonight is to see if maybe we can do an extension of that and update the traffic impact fee policy that we have and that's being utilized by the Planning Commission at this point in time. The policy that we have in place right now was adopted back in September of 2003. And during that policy, or in that policy, as projects come into the parish, we look at the level of analysis that needs to be done based on the type of trips or the number of trips that are being proposed within that development. There are some pitfalls to that. We understand that, and they've been widely discussed, both at the Planning Commission level, at the council level. So what we'd like to do is see if we can get this policy updated by an extension of the USI contract that they initiated back when. We solicited other proposals, and this was by far the most reasonable, and it also tags on to work that they've done in the past, you know. With that, I'd like to introduce Christine, and she could make a couple of comments.
Hi, thank you, Councilman. In 2003, this policy was adopted, and since that time, the parish has increased tremendously and had a lot of growth. So what was good for a parish back in 2003 has definitely changed. The current policy does not make the developer account for any developments that are currently going on adjacent to them. And back in 2003, it may have taken a year or two for the next development to come on, so you already had those traffic counts included in your development. Now with projects simultaneously going on, those adjacent traffic counts are not being included in the developer's reports. So that is just one of the aspects that we discovered in our 2016 report, and we would like to help Ascension Parish develop a more comprehensive plan that will help residents and the parish and the engineers find that middle ground, because right now the parish residents believe the engineers should be doing more, and the engineers are saying we're doing what's required.
Correct.
So there's a very big disconnect, and we would like to help close the gap and use the traffic impact analysis policy as a tool to mend those fences and to help the parish move forward and increase safety, because there's ways of fitting in the areas that the parish knows need assistance in, or they have trouble spots, and to include those in, we can help the safety of the residents as well.
Make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion.
Recommendation.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, a second by Councilman Haley. Any discussion? I do have one question. How, do we have a deadline, or how many days that we can expect to see a finished product?
We would have a first draft policy to y'all within the month. But I think we have it in our contract for 25 days, I believe.
Okay, great. So we have a second.
Short month.
Do we have any opposition? None, so moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, and I think I misspoke last time, that was item number 8. Moving on to item number 9, recommendation to council to take action to acquire property for the purpose of providing interconnections between Parker Place 2 subdivision and Reese Lane subdivision. Mr. Fournier?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Reese Lane project, well, let me start off first by, there's a big discussion in the parish about interconnectivity and how we're having a lack of interconnectivity amongst subdivisions. And it's causing a lot of traffic problems in the parish, as we know. It's one of many problems that we have traffic-wise, but what we're trying to do is promote interconnectivity amongst subdivisions in the parish. Reese Lane was a project that was recently approved, if I can get the overhead on, by the Planning Commission. You may recall that this project was denied at the Planning Commission level, then it went to council, and it came back to Planning Commission at the request of the council. It was subsequently approved at council level, all right? Part of the process during the analysis of this project, the project had one lane, one road going in, and one road coming out. And during the meetings with staff, we required them to put connectivity in this project to both the north, leading into what is to be the future Brookstone project, and to the south on the existing Parker Estates project, Parker Estates #2. All right. One of the reasons we had a big power a pipeline that's running this way. And if there was any problem out there, we wanted to make sure that emergency vehicles could get in and out of the project, right? And that's the same for some of the other projects that are around here, and that we would like to promote multiple connections into a project, not only for traffic purpose, but for safety purposes, right? When the Parker Place 2 project was put together, and this was a few years ago, probably it was definitely before my time, there was we call it a reserve strip. Some people call them spite strips, spite with a T, because it prevents people from going from one place to the other. And it's a small strip that's 12-foot wide. They're calling it a utility servitude right here, and it travels all the way to where the project it opens up right here. These are technically called the reserve strip in the Unified Land Development Code. We don't allow them. I would say that it probably should not have been approved that way, because we wanted to connect to the north, and now we're going to have to go over that spite strip in order to get connectivity to the Reese Lane project. Right. So what we would like to do is to get permission from the Transportation Committee to go to the council to start the action to take access across that, so we can get the connectivity into the Reese Lane project. All right, so that's what's before you tonight.
Question?
Councilman Lambert.
Jerome, I know this has been a sore subject every time we've tried to connect one subdivision to another, which you get a outpour of, very disgruntled neighbors, especially in the existing subdivision that's built already.
Right.
They knew they were buying into that subdivision like is, and now all of a sudden, I know we had one by Pelican Point, by Pelican Crossing, that we rejected because of that issue a few years back. That was when actually Kent was on board. It's it's a very touchy subject. I think you might want to, before we approve this, get some census from the residents in that area, especially, I think both districts, maybe one's yours, or they're both Dempsey's.
No, this is me.
That's you.
Yeah.
It is,
well, we do anticipate
oh, you're going to get some
there will
static.
be some opposition.
You're going to get some, a lot of opposition, very a lot, because, when you buy a house and spend all your dollars in one place, you dream home, and then all of a sudden, bam, you got a connectivity coming in from another subdivision that could not only give you more traffic, but you can also get some more crime. That's why we actually blocked in one entrance off of 621 into the big subdivision that they were getting a lot of crime because they had an in and out.
Right.
But that in and out get people that wanted to burglarize homes and come in and get out quicker. And we blocked that. We ended up closing it up. So
Yeah, I'm familiar with
connectivity is
that.
good in some ways, but some ways it's a hardship on people that built for years.
Well, we're having to weigh safety, having to weigh traffic with
I
with
understand
all those
that.
concerns. And,
I understand that, but
and,
it's still.
So we're looking for direction from you. If you'd like to move forward with this and pursue the interconnectivity.
I think we need to do a little bit more research on it first.
Councilman Glore.
Yeah, Jerome, I agree with Todd. I mean, I remember several battles, and even your predecessor was all about interconnectivity. Most people that's kind of looking at big picture are. So is this your district, but is this pending?
Well,
subdivision's approved.
No, I know it is, but I mean, is this pending anything, or you just trying to get some connectivity?
We're trying to get connectivity. Yeah, nothing's pending at the point. We contacted the developer of the Parker Place 2 project to see if he'd be willingly give us access across that spite strip, and the answer was no, so we thought that this might be the action we could take.
And while you're talking about the spite strip, even back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, I remember a lot of small parish roads that at the end somebody saved 20 feet or 30 feet to make sure that it would never connect
Right.
to the next place.
That's
You
how
know,
it got the name spite strip.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so,
I mean, I know of at least 4 places,
Yeah,
four
yeah.
small roads, and they, you know, basically these little roads turn into like subdivisions, houses up and down them. But,
Well, I'm just presenting to you what we feel is the right thing to do in terms of trying to get interconnectivity amongst subdivisions, and I'll leave it to your discretion as to
So-
how you want to approach this.
so basically what you're wanting tonight is the approval of this committee to go forward to the council, which everything we do go to the council, and to go negotiate, or
To
what?
possibly negotiate or actually take action to acquire it, you know? So,
So this is the parish third.
Parish would be responsible for the dollar value and everything involved in the connection and.
yeah. Well, we wouldn't be, I mean, it's a small strip. It's only, 12 feet in width.
Yeah,
And the square footage on that is rather small. I don't have the exact figure right here. It's probably 500 square feet of property, you know, so, yeah. So,
600 square feet,
yeah, somewhere in that range, yeah. So, that's what we're
I
at.
don't have a problem letting it go to the council, but, you know, you'll have
Okay.
a broader outlook on it when it gets to the council, and then, of course, everybody will be, it's gotta go somewhere back into the, correct me, Chairman, if we let it go to the council, and then the council's gonna give you permission to move forward, then, it's gonna come back to the council at some point, I
It will,
assume.
yes, it will.
Councilwoman Cazzo.
Jerome, we got to go there. At some point, we have to take responsibility for the safety of our citizens, for the need for connectivity. Every urban planner, every planner I know says you got to have it. It is a safety issue. Aside from school buses and the ways for them to not have to backtrack over themselves. I mean, garbage trucks, everything that is doubling up its use of a single street or a set of streets inside a subdivision. Look, I get it. But I also see these stub outs on people's plats,
Mm-hmm.
which means when they bought their house, they knew that the stub out existed and that one day they might be connected.
Right.
Am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, that's true in my own subdivision. There's a stub out up the street. Eventually, it's going to connect.
Yeah.
And it should connect because we are one way in and one way out.
Right.
And it's disconcerting to me. On one occasion, there was actually an accident in the driveway of our subdivision, and we couldn't get out.
Right.
So this is something that, as a growing, thriving parish, we are going to have to understand. At some point, a council, be it this one or another one in the future, is going to bite the bullet and say these connections have to take place.
I'd like to make that motion that it go to that this committee send it to the council for consideration.
Second.
I'd just like to hear it out.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We have motion, and we do have an objection. Do we have any other discussion, first of all? We have a motion by Councilman Clark, a second by Councilwoman Cazzo. We have an objection. Do we have any discussion? I will discuss because this is in my district. You know, this is not an easy decision. We're not making any decisions tonight per se. But you weigh the two things, the safety aspects. The safety goes both ways. You keep it enclosed. There is an argument for lower crime. That's a realistic concern, but we've got a very good sheriff's department, and if that becomes more of an issue, we'll get them in there and they'll help us out on that. As far as traffic goes, we hear people complain all the time about traffic issues. One of the ways to alleviate traffic issues is through interconnectivity. You can't have it both ways, and I know this is not always it's not going to be a popular decision either way, and I've had people on both sides of this already contact me about it. I believe in interconnectivity, though. On a personal note, when my youngest son was taken out on my wife's chest because he stopped breathing, we have one way in, one way out of my neighborhood. Right now, they're blocking it for construction, and the lane is half there. If somebody couldn't get out of there, I don't know what would have happened. We have 250 houses in my neighborhood. There's a lot of opportunities for fires, ambulance, whatever. There's one way in, one way out. If something happens, we're courting tragedy, and it's a tough decision. That's all I'm going to say on it for right now. We'll take a roll call vote. Is that right? We've got an objection.
I don't think you need to do
We don't roll call? No, okay. All those in favor? We have 4 in favor, 1 objection. We'll move it to the full council. Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you.
Let's see. I like roll calls. I don't get to do them.
It's fun.
Oh, you don't have a secretary.
That's true.
Yeah, you
Yes, I do. Yes, I
Oh,
do.
man.
Moving on
I'll mess you up.
to number 10, approval of task order number 6 under master contract for general engineering consulting services, transportation, master plan development, and implementation for public information outreach as part of Move Ascension Initiative for a not-to-exceed amount of $190,531. Mike Enlow.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Precise.
You'll see in the handout that I provided you all, this the task order is to provide public information outreach services through the remaining, the end of this year, December 2018, for the Move
Yeah, I'll give it to
Ascension projects. We're trying to save paper.
One hand.
One handout.
You did say the handout,
Yes, sir.
Literally.
Yes, sir. I didn't,
the one handout.
I wanted to make sure you caught that.
He said I did, yeah.
But this is something that we initially took out of the H&TB contract when we were getting started. We felt at the time there wasn't a need. We wanted to get started without expending funds for this. I think it's gotten to a point now where we feel that it's appropriate to use this to, these are the services from Franklin Associates to educate, inform, and update the public with regards to the Move Ascension program. As you all know, this is a program that's never really been done in Ascension Parish to this magnitude. We've got a lot of right-of-way we're purchasing, a lot of utilities that need to be moved, and a lot of different intricate details involved in all these projects. I found myself sometimes explaining these things to people that call in, and it's a different explanation for a different project and a different resident every time. And it's just because it's so detailed and the things that we have to do. Funding can be, there's just a ton of different amounts of funding scenarios, and trying to explain that to people is very difficult. So these are this is a sub-consultant on H&TB's team. They're very good. They had work in Baton Rouge for the Green Light program, and we all know what a success that was or is ongoing. So I'm excited to bring them on, and we have Perry Franklin here to discuss any and or address any questions you all may have.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Councilman Cagliari has a second. We have a question, discussion by Councilman Cloyd.
Yeah, Mr. Enlow. Mike.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so within this, you said you originally, it came out of the HMTB proposal,
Yes, sir.
and now you want to put it back in,
Yes, sir.
HMTB. A hell of a dollar figure right here, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm not discarding the value of it. I'm looking at the parish responsibilities on it. And saying, parish shall provide information on all public outreach events, press releases, et cetera, in order to coordinate these efforts. So how much is the parish going to have to do for HMTB for them to facilitate this? It says,
Well-
unless otherwise provided in this agreement, parish shall bear all costs incident or compliance with the above terms, items. So, I'm just asking, was this actual in an initial budget, RFQ, anything, just dollar value?
Yes, the budget included this amount. We took it out in the beginning because we wanted to move projects. That was part of the Quick Start initiative. And we figured the best way to do that was just buckle down, identify the projects, and get going. So we did that, and we put them out. But like I said, now we find ourselves in a position to capitalize on the public outreach and getting the information out to the public on these projects. We've got a lot of work going on in Highway 42 area, Councilman Lawler's district. There's going to be detours. There's going to be work on Henry Road, hopefully 930, 929, Parker. There's a lot of stuff going on in that area. And I'm not an expert at public information. I know you realize that I could talk quite a bit, but I don't know how effective it is most of the time. But we wanted to get somebody on here that knows what they're doing, has done this before, and can really help us out with a grassroots campaign, you know, whether it be door hangers, develop a plan to really attack this and figure out the best way to engage the public on these projects. From identifying what to do with the flags to understanding the detours and whatnot.
Well, from what you're saying, I probably not gonna have a lot of meetings in Santa Monica.
We may.
You may?
We may. We're looking at Harris Savoy Road, so.
Right. We can meet at Butch Gore Park.
We can meet at Butch Gore Park. Sounds good.
Don't run off the road, though, if you hadn't been down there before. It's very, very narrow.
Right. Well, you know, I'll give you for instance, one of the things that you know we're finding out on these roads, as as you well know, being from here, some of these the utilities, there's no utility servitude. They're just kind of there. There's maybe no right of way on some of these roads. There's servitude. It's tacit use is the term I've heard Jeff use before. Explaining that to some of these people, I mean, it's not like in you know, let's say Baton Rouge where there's right of way, there's already servitude there for the utilities to be in. We're having to move these utility companies into another servitude that we're paying for. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I just make everything clear. I will gut check anything that's not going to actual road construction. All right, so and I believe in this, but God, that's a good dollar figure right there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Caglianotti.
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. This was in the original budget, and it was put aside on hold, and now we're bringing it back. Is that
yes, sir?
Correct. Okay.
Yes, sir. That's why it's coming back as an additional task order.
Okay.
Councilwoman Cazzo.
Yeah, I just want to point out, twice tonight I had to say, how do we communicate to the public what we're doing with these flags? How do we communicate with the public about our surveying? How do we communicate with the public? So this is how we communicate with the public, and do so effectively and appropriately and with the correct information. So I think it's important. I think we would fail miserably here to keep the public knowledgeable about these projects if we don't move forward here. This is a nice tidy sum. I agree, but it is what it costs to do this work, and I certainly know that I'm not capable of explaining all of this, and I certainly know that you don't have time to take all the phone calls from each and every constituent of mine and everybody else's up here who's calling you to find out what's happening. So it's important. I think we need to do it.
Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to point out that in the Green Light program and in the consent decree sewer program in East Baton Rouge Parish, communication was one of the most important things that we did with the constituents of the parish to let them know what to expect in their neighborhood, when to expect it. And as it turned out, you know, they were always very appreciative of the information, and I know for a fact that Mr. Franklin and his company are very very good at what they do. They're very professional, and I think as a citizen of the parish, they would be well served to learn more about the road program. I think the council members would be well served to have their constituents learn more about the road program, because I think this is something that's going to continue into the future, and the future of the program is going to depend on, I think, how well it's received by the public. And I think this is a good way to facilitate that. But it was a huge success in East Baton Rouge Parish, and I kind of pushed Mike to put this back on the front burner so that we could get it going here in Ascension as well.
Thank you. If I may add, transparency is something that we've all pushed really hard for. It's a great way to let the public know. There's also the employers, the businesses along these roadways that need to know when the road in front of their company is going to be, torn up, so they can have an alternate route, so they can tell their employees. We can do this. We can work with the schools on this. Roddy Road is going to go right down the middle of this parish. We're going to have work all along there. We're going to be buying right away from, I think, over 300 individuals that have never experienced anything like this before. I think we owe them the duty to go out there, talk to them about it, advise them of what's coming to make that project move along much quicker. That's all I have to say. We do have a motion and a second. Do we have any opposition? None, so moved. Okay, moving on. Number 11, approval of contract amendment number 5 to the master contract for general engineering consulting services, transportation, master plan development, and implementation to include task order number 6, public information outreach, resulting in an increase of $190,000 and a new total not to exceed amount of $6,511,806.
I wanted to reiterate that it is a not to exceed amount. This is based on an estimate of all these projects. We're going to try to consolidate some of these meetings where some of the projects are in maybe the same district or with similar or adjacent districts. So we are going to keep an eye on this and build a plan that's going to be effective for the program. So I want to add that.
Ready, you have an eye on it, don't worry.
Well, just a quick comment is that we on task order 6, and so the dollar value just continues to grow as long as the work's being done. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And it's going to one firm. Okay?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
and we have a second by Councilman Lambert, a motion by Councilwoman Cazzo. Any objection? Any discussion? I'm sorry.
I
Councilwoman
just
Cazzo.
want to make a comment to Councilman Kluat's comment. Yes, it's going to one firm. It's going to one firm, in my opinion, because we have continuity here in how this work is getting done. And we have a first-class operation that we committed to. We are seeing the results. And so I'm proud of the fact that this is happening. And I know that Randy didn't mean any insult by that, but
No.
it was just a comment. But I don't want the public to think that is inappropriate, that it be going to one firm. It is appropriate that this plan be administered by one organization so that we can have a complete oversight inside an organization without issues of communication problems on the outside. So, and they are doing a fantastic job from what I can tell and communicating well with their subs. And so I just wanted to make that comment.
Yes, ma'am. This is a programmatic issue to have continuity. I appreciate you pointing it out. And Councilman Kluat, I understand your concern as well. But again, this is a programmatic approach that these guys are doing. And we've got 11 other engineering firms that are doing the engineering work on these projects. And so we're getting a lot of work done. And we appreciate y'all's help with this effort.
So we have a motion and a second. Any objection? None, so moved. Moving on to number 12, authorization for HNTB and/or GCR to approve counter offers during Move Ascension right-of-way acquisition negotiations up to a maximum of 10% over the appraised value. Mike Enlow.
Right. This is something we discussed when we purchasing the right-of-way. We talked to, it's going to be difficult. We know that. But there's going to be a lot of coordination. I spoke with our legal counsel, and he's okay with this. He just said that the governing body needs to approve this so that we don't have to wait every time we get a counteroffer to come to this body to get that approved.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Any opposition? None, so moved. Moving on to number 13, authorization for the Transportation Department to approve necessary change orders associated with Move Ascension construction projects. Applies to material quantities only and not changes in scope of work, etc. A reconciliation of all quantities and cost overruns, underruns will be required at the end of the project and reported to the Transportation Committee and/or Council for final acceptance and project closeout.
Motion.
We have a motion. We have a second by Councilman Cagalati. We have discussion by Councilwoman Cazzo.
Yeah, just for the public's benefit, and certainly for mine, I'd like an explanation of why this is necessary, why you think it is.
Yes, ma'am. So, transportation projects and reconstruction roads and all this kind of thing, there's a lot of material quantities that are estimated. I don't think I've ever seen an engineer get the quantities down to the yard on these projects. It changes, and by definition, that's a change order. And what we do in the field, it's a work change directive to keep the contractor going. It's kind of I don't want to call it a promissory note, but you know, it's to keep them going, so we don't have to wait for the next month to get a contract change. So typically, it's just an effective way to move government faster, and again, we won't be changing any of the scope of work without coming to you guys. It's just for material quantities only. I don't know if that was a...
Absolutely. Helps, I'm sure, the public and certainly me, and tell Bill Dawson.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Councilman Clark.
Yeah, Mike, I made the motion. I agree with that y'all need to have some kind of latitude to be able
Yes,
to
sir.
continue to do the work for us.
We
appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate your the consideration. It's tough to work like this sometimes. We want to be transparent, and we will, but you can't wait a month in between doing tasks if you're building a house or anything else, building a road either. So we just want to move this stuff forward as quickly as we can.
Okay, Councilman Lambert.
Yeah, Mike, one big thing, if it looks like it's gonna be a big amount, maybe bring it to the council.
Absolutely.
Or the committee.
Absolutely.
You know, I can see, here and there a little bit, but if you got a big chunk or something, then we need to look at, definitely bring it
It's all
forward.
budgeted.
There'll be stuff that's added and stuff that's
Yeah.
going to be deleted as well. So there'll be materials that
We don't wanna
change.
wait till the end and get one big chunk there, whoa.
Right.
You
Yes,
know?
sir.
Yeah. We'll be aware of it as it goes through.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Cagalati.
Don't forget to beat your own drum, Mike, if we have an underrun.
Yes, sir. I plan on it.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we have a motion and a second. Any opposition, objection? Can't talk anymore. None, so moved. Number 14, Resolution 2017 through 2019 Priority for Off-System Bridge Replacement Certification Program Renewal, H.H. Wilson Bridge and Manchac Acres Bridge.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any objections? None, so moved.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
We've got a motion to adjourn. Let's get on out of here.
Thank you.